It's the calm before the storm at Mile 1. The Brier playoffs begin tonight with Team Gushu in the all-important first game. That story coming right up.
There is no 280 million seated fund.
But the feds say there should be about $100 million for this province in an Atlantic fisheries fund.
Wrapping up, the Dunphy inquiry finishes its public hearings.
On the northeast tip of North America, on an island called Newfoundland, there's an airport. And next to it is a town called Gander.
Come From Away is ready for its official opening on Broadway.
Well, batten down the hatches. A very, very powerful storm is working into the region. Very strong winds are on the menu with snow and blowing snow. We'll talk about it coming up in just a few minutes.
Well, after a thrilling week at the Brier, Team Gushu is headed into the playoffs.
Yes, the home team clinched its spot last night with a come-from-behind win over the reigning Brier champions, Kevin Cooey and Team Canada.
Here now, Zach Gowdy has been reporting from the Brier all week, and he joins us from Mile 1 tonight. Zach, so set the stage for the big game tonight.
Well, the home team is on fire heading into the playoff round. They have now won 4 in a row, including their final round-robin game today against Team Nova Scotia. But it's last night's match against Kevin Cooey that curling fans are still buzzing about. It was an absolute classic game, a rematch of last year's Brier final, only this time with a different result. Team Gushu got behind early, but their strategic play kept them in it. They made some big shots late in the home stretch. They forced the extra end, then Brad Gushu put it all away with the shot you've just seen. That win leapfrogged Team Gushu ahead of Team Cooey in the playoff standings. The top 4 are the McEwen Rink for Manitoba in first place, followed by Team Gushu, then Team Cooey in third spot, and Brad Jacobs and Team Northern Ontario in the 4th and final playoff position. After today's game, we spoke with Brad Gushu about how the intensity at the Brier ramps up from this point on.
It's a little bit different. I think we've had a good test leading into this with a few of the games we played against, like Cooey and Jacobs. I think those were playoff atmosphere kind of games. Like the crowd was into it and we were into it. So it's going to be very similar to that, which is good for us because we've done it twice.
Now, last night's win against Team Cooey, important not just for morale, big implications with the playoff standings. To talk briefly about the structure of the Brier playoff round, tonight there is a match between the first place team and the second place team. Again, that's the McEwen team from Manitoba and Team Gushu. The winner of tonight's game will move directly to the championship on Sunday. Tomorrow, there is a matchup between the 3rd and the 4th place finishers. Again, that's Team Cooey and Team Brad Jacobs. But the winner of that match will then play the loser of tonight's game, with the winner advancing into Sunday's finals. So what it means is Brad Gushu could punch his ticket for the finals tonight, but even if he loses, he will get a second chance at the big game, a chance that he would not have had if he had finished in 3rd place instead of 2nd. So again, he could be just 2 wins away now, the whole team, from hoisting the biggest prize in all of curling. Reporting live at Mile 1, I'm Zach Gowdy for Here and Now.
Well, the month of March came in like a lamb in this province, but it's certainly not waiting to go out like a lion.
No, Mother Nature is planning to roll out a weekend of pretty nasty weather, from snow to freezing rain to some really high winds, all depending on which part of the province you're in.
Yeah, and of course, Ryan Snoddon is back with more on this. So Ryan, we always get strong winds during storms in this province. So what's different about this one?
Well, the winds with this one, Carolyn and Peter, just a little bit stronger than even some of the big storms we see rolling through this neck of the woods. This is why we talk about a weather bomb. I've talked about weather bombs on this show before. 24 millibars of barometric pressure dropping in 24 hours. That's what you need for a weather bomb. Well, this one will double that. This is this afternoon, around 1,000 millibars. This system will drop 50 millibars in 24 hours. That means a very intensifying, quickly intensifying and very strong system that will be packing a punch in terms of those very strong winds. And yeah, that will then roll up into the Labrador Sea, continuing to be a strong storm for the southeast parts of Labrador on Sunday, with strong winds continuing across the island. But the strongest winds will indeed be on Saturday. Eastern Newfoundland is looking at sustained winds of 60 to 90 kilometers per hour. In fact, St. John's very likely in the 80 to 90 sustained winds. Gusts in the 100 to 120, even 130. Some forecast models showing gusts upwards of 140 along exposed areas of that coastline from St. John's to Bonavista Bay. You can see where the winds won't be quite as strong for the west and into southeastern parts of Labrador. But yeah, it's going to be a windy one there as well. And then there is, of course, the snow. And we will, I'll let you have a quick look at that map, and we'll, of course, break it all down in full detail in just a few minutes.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Newfoundland and Labrador has hammered out a deal to help the fishery, but it's now going to have to share the money with the rest of Atlantic Canada. $325 million is set aside for a new Atlantic Fisheries Fund. Liberal MP Judy Foote was in the province today and unveiled the fund. And she also revealed that, well, all the money isn't going to be going to this province. Here now's Megan McCabe joins us live now with the details. Megan, how does this new fund compare to what was originally promised?
Well, this is less than what the province had been looking for in exchange for signing on to CETA. That's the trade agreement with the European Union. Originally, the federal government, Conservative at the time, was going to pay $280 million in exchange for this province dropping minimum fish processing requirements. Today, the Premier said those processing requirements will be dropped and the fight with Ottawa over the Fisheries Fund is over. But the money announced today is a lot less. The province will now only get $100 million from the feds.
When you invest $100 million of new money, this is new money, this $100 million is new money into the fishery in Newfoundland and Labrador. That saves a lot of jobs. It sets the future up for the future. We also know the ground fishery is much more labor intensive. So this will mean jobs for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. It will mean new jobs, and it will certainly position Newfoundlanders and Labradorians to save existing jobs.
For years, Ottawa and the province fought over the terms of a fisheries fund related to this European free trade deal and concerns that dropping processing requirements here could cost jobs. Now, both Foote and Ball talked about ironing out the details of this money with people in the industry. People like Brad Watkins, who's fished for 35 years. He says this is good news and has one word to describe the current state of the industry.
Stressful. It's a big change. We're used to a shell fishery right now. We were ground fish. We diversified into shellfish. Looks like she's coming back again. Now we have to learn how to diverse into a lower price fish now than we're used to for the short term. And hopefully with this money and growth of the industry, it will turn out to be as good as what the shellfish and better than what shellfish was.
Now, not everyone is happy, though. The opposition PCs are accusing the federal government of breaking its promise by only giving part of the money that was originally negotiated. Peter?
Thanks. That's the CBC's Megan McCabe reporting for us live tonight. There are new unemployment numbers that are out today, and our province has more than doubled the national rate. But even with the high unemployment rate, businesses in Gander are having trouble filling open positions. Here now's Chris Ensing has more.
It should say still hiring, and they aren't alone. McDonald's has had this sign up for quite some time, offering more than minimum wage.
It's not just fast food restaurants that are looking for employees. There are a number of employers looking online trying to find help as well. 61 job postings on the Job Bank site for the Government of Canada, and they range from medical assistant to automotive technician, cashiers, clerks, cleaners, painters, all here in the Gander area. So we asked the Gander Chamber of Commerce what they thought, and they suggested there might be a way to see some of these postings close.
I think it has a lot to do with the change in the foreign workers policy. It seems to be in not just the service industry, but in a lot of businesses in the area that we're hearing that it's very difficult to find applicants, period. And then in some cases, maybe qualified applicants, but it is a struggle.
The Chamber wants the Temporary Foreign Workers Program to cut red tape. Sweeping changes were announced in 2014, and it includes barring employers in high unemployment regions from using the program. Right now, the province sits at a 14% unemployment rate.
And of course, you know, we want to encourage local businesses to hire local residents, but if you can't stay in business because there are no people applying, you need to have that program.
The Chamber said the program has been used before and are looking at ways to get local employers back on the program. They see it as a way to make these ads disappear. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Gander.
A provincial court judge has used a high-profile case to highlight flaws he sees in the court system. Judge Bruce Short in Harbour Grace says his court could be run more efficiently and effectively with a few changes, including a second courtroom. Here Now's Glenn Payette has more.
This week, at the Crown's request, Judge Bruce Short was asked to move the preliminary hearing for accused murderers Alan Potter and Daniel Leonard to St. John's. They are charged with the first-degree murder of Dale Porter in North River in 2014. The hearing is slated for Harbour Grace in November. Well, the Crown wanted it moved to St. John's so it could be heard much sooner. Well, Judge Short said no to the request and said, "I would be condoning the status quo if I were to grant this application." So what's the status quo here? Short says his court is overbooked and backlogged, and that it doesn't have to be that way, and there's a quick fix. The province leases the building in Harbour Grace. When Short denied the Crown's application, he also said, "I'm advised by the owner of this building that assuming that materials were on site, courtroom number 2 could be built in 2 weeks." And Short said the province wouldn't have to hire a new judge for the court because there are already enough in the system. If the judge in Clarenville routinely helps out the court in St. John's, then Clarenville doesn't need to have a judge sitting full-time. That judge could help out Harbour Grace. That judge's salary is already being paid. In other words, there would be no additional cost to the system with respect to having a judge from Clarenville routinely help out this court. Short says he has ideas for helping solve problems with his court and others in the province, but no one in the administration has consulted with him. Today, Justice Minister Andrew Parsons said that shouldn't be the case.
I think that's a concern if that's how this judge or any judge feels, because I want to hear these things. I need to hear these things.
Parsons says Short didn't contact his office directly, but says he is willing to meet with him or any judge. But he says it's not within his power to decide where judges should sit or how court resources should be allocated. Parsons says it's up to the chief judge and court administration. He says these are issues that have to be discussed within the administration, but he says it doesn't sound like that's happening.
Well, this was the scene a month ago when a demolition crew tore down a house in Carbonear where young Quinn Butt was killed. Tonight we can tell you that the bank has put the land up for auction. CIBC is starting a power of sale process to have the title removed from the property owner, Trent Butt. He's the father of Quinn Butt. She was found dead in the house last spring after a fire. He has pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder and arson. CIBC says it's legally required under the Provincial Conveyancing Act to place a public notice to seek potential bidders in a closed auction for the property.
After 2 months of testimony from more than 50 witnesses, the inquiry into the police shooting death of Don Dunphy has wrapped up its hearings. The inquiry is looking at what happened on April 5th, 2015, when Constable Joe Smythe fatally shot Dunphy in his Mitchells Brook home. Witnesses talked about the days leading up to the incident itself, and the days that followed. Inquiry Commissioner Justice Leo Barry is now faced with the difficult task of making sense of it all. Here Now's Mark Quinn reports.
For people who followed the inquiry, it was a wild ride with many dramatic and unexpected turns. Days after Dunphy died on Easter Sunday 2015, an RCMP statement suggested Dunphy was shot after he pulled a gun on a police officer. But in the early days of the inquiry, we heard an alternative theory about what may have happened. Dunphy's daughter Megan said maybe Smythe fired after her father raised a stick that he carried for protection. And then there was the dramatic testimony from 2 paramedics who both said the rifle Dunphy is alleged to have pointed was in a different position when they saw it. And of course, we heard from Constable Joe Smythe. He was questioned and cross-examined for more than 6 days. And then, in a surprise turn of events, was called back to testify after phone records revealed he spoke with a colleague before making his police statement. Those records also included a text where Smythe told a friend he was going to visit a lunatic, threatening the Premier. Justice Leo Barry said many times that one of the primary jobs of the inquiry was to establish Smythe's credibility. Many questions may never be answered to everyone's satisfaction, but Smythe's lawyer, Jerome Kennedy, and many of the police witnesses said none of the evidence disproved Smythe's statement that he shot Dunphy in self-defense. Lawyers now have until April 7th to make their final submissions, and Justice Leo Barry says he expects to have his report completed and its recommendations by July 1st. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, a somber anniversary this weekend. It was 8 years ago this Sunday that Cougar Flight 491 crashed off the coast of Newfoundland, killing 17 of the 18 people on board. The helicopter was transporting workers to an offshore rig off St. John's when a mechanical problem forced the pilot to ditch into the ocean. One passenger did manage to escape the aircraft and was rescued. Well, the tragic anniversary will be marked at an annual memorial service set for Sunday evening in St. John's. It'll be held at Corpus Christi Church on Waterford Bridge Road. There's a pre-service a half an hour before the memorial begins at 7 o'clock.
Come From Away is about to hit the biggest stage of all, Broadway, and we have a front row seat to that musical that celebrates this province's response to 9/11.
And it's not just the Briers players who are on the ice competing for a big trophy this week. In Labrador, the annual Trappers Cup has gotten a lot of attention. We'll tell you who's heading home with the championship.
headlines here now with a look at the weather, and it sounds like we're really going to have to brace ourselves for this wind.
Yeah.
Take in your garbage cans. And
definitely. Anything that could fly away probably will for the eastern parts of the island.
So take away your Mary Poppins umbrella because...
Yeah, definitely. If you want a cheap flight to Iceland or the UK, the wind will head in that direction because, it is definitely going to be a windy one. Typically, when we have a storm coming in like this, the snowfall would be the top story, but I think the wind will be really the major player with this one that will be the most notable thing for pretty much everybody, too, because those that see the snow will also see the wind, hence why we have the blizzard warnings in effect for most of in fact, almost all of the island, minus the Avalon and Clarenville-Bonavista, Vista, where we will see some mixing, hence the winter storm warnings there, winter storm watches, that is. Blizzard warnings extend into southeastern Labrador up towards the Cartwright region, blowing snow advisories for Eagle River towards Happy Valley Goose Bay and also the coast of Labrador. Now, the Avalon and Clarenville-Bonavista Vista are under a wind warning. And yes, for good reason. Winds are really going to be howling with this one. A special weather statement is also in effect for the south coast of the island. It looks like storm surge shouldn't be an issue, but if this storm arrives just a couple of hours early, then storm surge could be an issue coinciding with high tide. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that things hold the way they are now, but just a heads up from Environment Canada there. Again, in case you missed it, sustained winds in that 60 to 90 kilometer per hour range for eastern parts of Newfoundland, particularly the Avalon and the northeast coast, where we could see gusts in the 120 to 130 or stronger range, especially in those exposed areas along parts of the coast. The winds will be very strong even for the west coast up into southeastern Labrador, but not quite as strong as they will be in the east. Now, in terms of that snowfall map, I showed it briefly to you earlier. We're looking at about 5 to 10 centimeters for the Avalon. Nothing too significant. Where the really tricky forecast would be the Brier and Clarenville-Bonavista Vista, where will be anywhere from 10 to 20 centimeters with a bit of ice pellet, freezing rain action mixing in there as well. And then it's all snow from basically Terra Nova back through central, 15 to 25 centimeters, and a potential by the time we get through till Sunday afternoon of 25 or 30 plus centimeters for the northern peninsula and southeastern parts of Labrador. Happy Valley Goose Bay down towards Corner Brook, anywhere from 10 to 20 centimeters when you add in the snow from today and into Sunday with some onshore flurries firing up there. There's the system. But as I mentioned earlier, just getting started here. This thing is already starting to intensify and will really ramp up tonight and in through tomorrow, becoming a very strong storm. In terms of your timeline, the snow spreads in after midnight. By the time most of us wake up tomorrow morning, we've got periods of snow from Corner Brook to St. John's, and in fact, likely by 7, 8 a.m., we're already starting to see some ice pellets mixing in for the metro region. Winds gusting 80 to 90 kilometers per hour will mix over to some rain from south to north across the Avalon Peninsula through mid-morning. So there's a snapshot of your morning temperatures, minus 25 in Labrador City, quiet for the southeast parts of Labrador and the northern peninsula. Now we'll run you through your morning, and note there's that mixing across the Avalon up towards Clarenville-Bonavista Vista as well. Terra Nova west, this is all snow, and those winds will really start to rifle in from the north here and then wrap around to the west and southwest. This is when we get into the strongest wind potential. It's from late morning, especially through the lunchtime hour, early afternoon to mid-afternoon. This is when the strongest winds will be punching around this system for the northeast coast, the Avalon, and eastern parts of Newfoundland with those gusts 100 plus. You can see the blowing and drifting will be a big issue for those that see all snow central west towards the northern peninsula and southeastern Labrador, even into Saturday evening. And temperatures are going to tumble on the other side of this low. So we'll be at +5 for St. John's around lunchtime. We'll be at -5 by around supper time or early evening. And again, near freezing for Happy Valley Goose Bay with some snow building up for you folks Saturday night into Sunday. And we're going to talk about that part of the system for Saturday night and into the rest of your weekend coming up in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Ryan. Well, from Gander to New York City, the musical Come From Away officially debuts on Broadway this Sunday. There will even be a celebrity red carpet with some famous faces promising to make an appearance. So, of course, we had to send our Angela Antle to check it all out firsthand. She's in New York City right now with a little preview of what we can expect Sunday night.
Hi, Carolyn. We're here in the very busy theater district in New York City. We're just off Times Square. Behind me is the Gerald Schoenfeld Theater. where Come From Away makes its official Broadway debut this Sunday night. Ariana Kelland and I will be live on the red carpet on Sunday night. We'll be live on Facebook. You can follow along with us as we speak to some of the invited celebrities. Tom Brokaw is coming, Brooke Shields, Canadian comedian Samantha Bee, and others. But of course, the real stars are the Ganderites, the people from Gander who inspired the story, Oz Fudge and Beulah Cooper. Although they're so excited to be here to be part of this Broadway debut, the first thing they wanted to do when they got here to New York City was pay homage to the people who died in the 9/11 attacks. So we ran into them this morning at the 9/11 Memorial.
When I was here 6 years ago, when I walked inside, the base of the towers were there, and there was no water or anything like that, and they were just constructing this. It was almost like you could feel the souls of everybody. You knew that they were there, and it's that same feeling again today when I'm in here, and that's why I even took off my hat, because that type of respect they need, and it's almost like they're here and they're watching what's going on here.
So tune in to Here and Now on Monday night. We'll bring you the story of Come From Away's official Broadway debut. For Here and Now in New York City, I'm Angela Antle.
That intense look of concentration. Coming up next, a sports psychologist weighs in on what headspace Brad Gushue has to be in tonight if they want to reach that Brier championship on the weekend. Welcome back to Here and Now. The crowds here at the Brier have certainly been one of the big stories of the game. Everyone, it seems, in this province is cheering for Team Newfoundland and Labrador. That can be a big benefit, but it can also be a challenge when they're trying to play. To talk a little bit more about this, I'm joined by Erin McGowan. She teaches sports psychology at Memorial University. So how much can a crowd influence how the athletes actually perform on the ice?
Definitely, the crowd can be very influential on performance. What I think we're seeing here at the Brier is the crowd is definitely behind Team Newfoundland, which is what would be expected. And I think that, Mark Nichols did a really great job of summing up how they're viewing that. They're viewing that as a really positive thing, and they're feeding off the crowd, and the crowd is really feeding off them.
We heard right at the beginning, Brad Gouju mentioned that he was shaking during the first game, and his performance was also a bit shaky. What do you need to do in order to try and take those nerves and that pressure and turn it from a liability into something that is positive?
I think there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. I think, going into any Brier, you're going to be nervous. And in particular, playing in front of a home crowd, you're going to be extra nervous. And I think he's really done a great job of turning that around and really viewing that as a positive thing. The crowds are behind him. They view it as a positive aspect. And, I think they've just sort of tried to settle down a little bit as they become more accustomed to the ice, as they become more accustomed to being on the ice in front of a home crowd. They've just settled down, which I think is really important.
They've got a big game tonight. This is the chance to get right into the final, and then hopefully they'll have that final on Sunday. What would your advice be to them as that pressure gets even more intense and as everyone in the province is looking to them to not just win it for themselves, but win it for the province?
I would just say to Team Newfoundland to keep doing what they're doing. They've been doing really well. They're top of the leaderboards, tied at top of the leaderboards. They're doing very well. They're doing all the things that they need to be doing, so just continuing to focus on those things. So I would particularly encourage them to focus in the here and now, focus on what they need to do right now in this moment to be successful, not dwell on their past mistakes, and not think too far in advance. They know coming in that they're going to have added pressure, so they've prepared for that added pressure. So they would have been focused on practicing with distractions, making sure that every shot that they took had a consequence or an outcome that was important. So they would have spent a great deal of time, both physically and mentally, preparing for the pressure and the distractions that come with playing in front of a home crowd.
Well, thank you very much for your analysis. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, to Labrador now, where two teams were battling it out for supremacy on the ice last night. It was Happy Valley Goose Bay versus Northwest River in the 33rd Max Winters Memorial Trappers Cup. Happy Valley Goose Bay has taken the title the past 7 years, so Northwest River was looking to break that streak, but it was not to be. They went down by a score of 5-2. Nonetheless, the fans seem to really enjoy themselves.
A legend of Newfoundland and Labrador curling has been making his presence felt here at the Brier. And I don't mean Brad Gouju, I mean Brier Bear and Reg Coggy, the man who's played the mascot for 37 years. We'll meet him coming right up.
He's a Newfoundlander who's become a household name in curling. He's been to more than a dozen Briers, and tonight he's going to be inducted into the Canadian Curling Hall of Fame. And no, we're not talking about Brad Gushue. It's Reg Coggy, or as you probably know him, Brier Bear. Here now's Zach Gowdy joins us again tonight with that story. So Zach, tell us more about the man behind the bear mask.
Well, Peter, in sports, the job of team mascot is usually done by a younger person, but Reg Coggy could put all the kids to shame with his performances as Brier Bear. Coggy has been playing the beloved Brier mascot for 37 years. This year, with the Brier in his hometown, Coggy decided it was time to hang up his head. But not before he gets a send-off that most people in curling could only dream about. Tonight, Coggy is being inducted into the Canadian Curling Hall of Fame. Let's meet the man behind Brier Bear.
Reg Coggy, I live here in St. John's, beautiful St. John's. As far as the bear is concerned, he was born in 1981 in Halifax. I happened to be on the steering committee. The suggestion came up that we should have a mascot for curling. And they said, hey, that sounds like a good idea. You're it. I said, well, I'll give it a try. It was only going to be for 1 year, but I've been invited back every year since, 37 straight years. So. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful, fantastic journey. I've been a people person all my life, my career, and I just love being around people. And curling is a tremendous sport that anybody can play it. And just being around the whole atmosphere of the Brier is everybody's dream.
It's a pretty physically demanding role to play.
Well, if you saw my personal body, you would see the black and blue. Yes, when you're jumping around and having a bit of fun like that, yeah, certainly. It is physically draining, there's no question. By the end of the week that you probably need another 2 weeks rest to get over it, but I just keep journeying on.
Now, Reg, this year's Brier is going to wrap up in a very special way. Tell us about your decision to hang up the head.
Well, as I just said, after 37 years, I thought the timing was right. And I thought about doing it in Calgary 2 years ago because my 2 children live in Calgary. But then I heard that St. John's were bidding. I said, oh boy, we are going to win this. So I said, oh, I'm going to hang on for sure for 2 more years. And to be retired in my hometown, well, that's very unique.
A last question. Are you passing the role on to somebody else, Reg?
I have no comment on that, really. I'm in favor of that, but I'm assuming that where I'm being inducted in the Canadian Hall of Fame, that's a possibility, but I think that decision would be left up to them. And if they do, that's fine. If they don't, I'm quite supportive of the Brier Bear continuing on.
Now that Hall of Fame induction ceremony will take place during tonight's game, right out on the ice. They're getting ready to open the doors here at Mile 1. You're hearing the sound cues just beginning. The ice crew have got the place in ship shape. The Brier playoffs beginning tonight at 8 o'clock. Team McEwen versus Team Gushue. That's happening here at Mile 1. Reporting live for Here and Now, I'm Zach Gowdy.
The weather update is brought to you by Belltone Hearing Service St. John's, helping the world hear better.
Zach bringeth the music.
That
right?
was like perfect timing.
Yeah.
Zach is all about the timing this week down at the Brier. It's been pretty
definitely.
good. Yeah, yeah. It's going to be an emotional ceremony, I'm sure, when Reg Coggy gets that induction into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I can't believe that. I was really surprised because when you see him and he's moving around and you do assume that it's a young person, then he takes the head off and you're like, oh my God, he's
a
fitter than I am.
nimble guy. Well, Ryan, we know that we're expecting some pretty high winds this weekend, but let's hope it's nothing like this.
Well, yeah, a mom in Ohio shared this video showing her daughter being taken for a ride as strong winds swing open the front door of their home.
Yes, mom says her daughter ended up being pinned between the door and the house, but don't worry, it looks worse than it really is. She is just fine.
Yes, mom says her daughter is actually laughing about the whole thing, and God love her, she never dropped the phone, right? Because I'm sure her mom said, you're not getting another phone. This is the only phone, and she hangs on to the phone, she doesn't drop it. Look. The whole time.
Wow.
And actually, if you check out on my Facebook page, her mom tweeted this out with some music in the background of Frank Sinatra's We're going to fly. So
Come fly with me.
Come fly with me. Thank you.
There we go.
So,
And the fact that she was, giggling about it all in the end is good too.
Yeah. Anyway, NL wins in Ohio, apparently.
Don't try this at home.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, here's the low, which is going to be bringing very strong winds that could do that to your door and your youngster. So make sure they're not hanging on to any doors over the next 12 to 24 hours as this low rolls in. And again, really intensifying quickly, a double weather bomb in terms of not just 24 millibars in 24 hours, but 50 millibars in 24 hours, so very strong storm. Again, most of the snow will be set for central, up towards the northern peninsula and southeastern parts of Labrador, though 10 to 20 centimeters. When you add in the snow from tomorrow, plus the onshore flurries Saturday night into Sunday for the west coast, we are looking at, again, a messy mix. I think we'll see some ice pellets and freezing rain and rain mixing in for the Burin, Clarenville, Bonavista. That'll keep amounts anywhere from 10 to 20 centimeters there, 5 to 10 centimeters of snow for St. John's and the Avalon, and likely closer to 5 millimeters of rain, but as much as 10 looking possible. So here is how things will play out. The snow rolls in tonight. We are after midnight, so Friday evening looks okay. The snow on the go for tomorrow morning for pretty much everyone, Corner Brook across to St. John's. But I think through the 7, 8, 9 a.m. time period, we will start to see some ice pellets and freezing rain mixing in for the Avalon, St. John's, and even by 9 a.m., some of that rain and drizzle starting to mix in for places like the southern shore. As we work throughout the morning, that precip will work off to the north. We are going to be seeing some mixing up towards Bonavista and Clarenville, and yes, some sunshine will actually break through for St. John's. But the winds, again, are going to be rifling in from the west-southwest with gusts upwards of 120 to 130, and yes, some forecast models even projecting gusts stronger than that. Very strong winds and blowing and drifting snow are going to be an issue for central west up towards the northern peninsula and southeastern Labrador. So yes, temperatures are going to be tumbling, wrapping around this system through the afternoon. St. John's +5, but -5 by the end of the day. And as we take a look at that 7 to 7, again, the sun and cloud with a scattered risk of a shower becoming a scattered risk of a flurry. But with those winds, will be tough to enjoy that +5 temperature. Now, rolling through Saturday evening, you'll note the clearing trend continues for the island. We'll see some onshore flurries and squalls firing up as we roll into the Sunday time period, especially for the west coast. This storm continues to basically sit and stall over the Labrador Sea, meaning more snow and strong winds for southeastern Labrador and the northern peninsula. This is, by the time we get to Sunday evening, why we're talking about the possibility of 25 or 30 centimeters for that region of southeast Labrador and the northern peninsula. Scattered flurry chances for central and eastern Newfoundland on Sunday, but note those winds, those temperatures, -4 to -6. So yeah, a cool one, -10 with scattered flurries for you folks in Labrador. Now, Sunday night into Monday, that low will start to depart slowly but surely. So certainly still windy on Sunday across the island, but less so on Monday. And you can see those winds easing off, scattered flurry chances, especially in the west. Labrador clears out. And as we look at that 7-day trend, Tuesday looks like a nice day. Another system for mid next week, which looks like another snow to rain maker in the east. Don't forget to spring forward with those clocks this weekend.
Absolutely. Well, now it's time to meet our young athlete of the day. This is Evan Adams from Paradise.
Evan is 7 years old and recently took up hockey at the Marystown Arena. He enjoys all the hockey drills, especially the one called the Superman drill.
Nice. Keep up the great work, Evan. Congrats, you're today's young athlete of the day.
Soldiers are back after spending more than a week learning survival skills deep in the wilderness of Labrador. In a few minutes, we'll tell you about the gentler side of the Labrador that they learned along the way.
The woman whose interests are as varied as the colors of a rainbow.
Are you ready to roll, Tammy?
Denise Moland, Sunday at 12:30.
Welcome back to Here and Now. More than 300 soldiers have left the Labrador wilderness and are returning to Happy Valley Goose Bay as exercise Northern Sojourn comes to an end. The soldiers spent 9 days learning ways to stay alive in Labrador's cold and icy climate. The group involves reserve soldiers from this province as well as New Brunswick. A practice patrol saw some of them traveling close to 400 kilometers into the woods on snowmobile. Not only did they practice survival skills, but they had a chance to visit Northwest River, Postville, and Makovic, where they got to experience firsthand Labrador's hospitality.
It's touching as well because they're all there for each other and they want to help each other. Even when you bring somebody else into the community, like the CF, when we were there, everyone wanted to help you. You know, we had our own tents to set up, and the community wanted to help us set up the tents, and you know, it's really nice to see.
Well, it's said the only certainties in life are death and taxes, but one New Brunswick man has found a way to sidestep them both, for now at least. He's building his own casket, and because nothing says I love you quite like a coffin, he's building one for his wife as well. Our Bridget Yard caught up with the Christies and their coffin construction and has this report.
This is the casket I'm going to be buried in. Pretty cool, huh?
You might say to each their own, but it is pretty cool.
They grab it here.
Ron Christie has combined his passion for music and performance with his talent for woodworking and flair for the dramatic.
Like in like the movie, like Count Dracula, you know. Opens up the old casket there, and it's made, you know, like so.
He even made one for his loving wife, Irene. Have you climbed in? Have you tried it?
Not actually in it. They actually took my 4'9" height, measured it, and yep, it's a fit.
And if it all seems a little lighthearted, that's because it is, and practical. Ron is a diabetic with a history of heart disease. He's faced down his own mortality more than once.
I had lost one kidney, and I had 2 major heart attacks. They rushed me to St. Foy, Quebec, and I had 5 bypass. Okay. Now, before Christmas there, I found out I had more blockage.
Instead of spending at least $5,000 on a simple pine box, Christie decided his final resting place would be a masterpiece. He's already spent more than 100 hours on each casket and about $400 on supplies. They have it down to a science, with just a few simple instructions to leave behind.
We take a small nail, like a finishing nail. We take it and we put it in the hole here. And then when she's done when the weight is done, or we close the casket, we put this in, and then we take a hammer and we hammer it in, and it stays locked.
And that's the nail in the coffin.
That's the nail in the coffin.
The Christies are still working on a few finishing touches before the coffin's big debut, hopefully at a much later date. Bridget Yard, CBC News, Big River.
An Australian man accused of posing as Justin Bieber online is now facing more than 900 child sex offenses. Police allege the 42-year-old law professor has more than 150 victims from multiple countries.
It's not known if any are from Canada. Investigators believe the suspect has been committing crimes for years. Police say this should serve as a reminder to parents and children to be vigilant about who they talk to online.
Welcome back to Here and Now. An epic journey across the Atlantic wrapped up in style yesterday. In the boat, that's Chris Burtish, now the first person to cross the Atlantic Ocean on a stand-up paddleboard. 6,500 kilometers over 93 days, and Burtish did it all to raise money for charity. He said his last night was so intense, he wasn't sure if he'd survive. As for what's next, well, there's a documentary in the works. It's all about the journey and one incredible paddler.
All right, quick recap on the weather here as I wanted to show you this map one more time. Again, sustained winds in the 80 to 90 kilometer per hour range are pretty likely for St. John's, the northeast coast, the Avalon, and that's where we're also talking about those gusts in the 100 to 120, as strong as 130 range for late morning through the lunchtime hour into mid-afternoon. So a solid 6-hour period here where we're looking at those strongest winds, especially for the Avalon northeast coast, but even back towards Fortune Bay, Clarenville, and edging towards Terra Nova and Gander. Again, the winds won't be quite as strong for the west into the northern peninsula, but a very strong winds when you couple it with all that snow, and hence the blizzard warnings that are in effect for most of the island. If you are traveling, and I know a lot of people are traveling on Saturdays, hazardous conditions for sure. Please take your time. If you don't need to be out on the roads, probably not a good idea for central and western Newfoundland. Even in the east, while we're going to be seeing the sun into the afternoon, man, those winds are really going to be howling, so exercise caution if you're driving. Those gusts will be really pushing the car around.
Good advice.
Thank you very much, Ryan. And time now to take a look at some of you who are celebrating birthdays and anniversaries.
Happy anniversary to Pop and Gladys Blake. They're celebrating 63 years of marriage. And happy birthday to Clarence Kendall. He's turning 90 years old. And Pottle of St. John's also turned 90 this week. Happy birthday to you. Lauren and Beulah Murley celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary yesterday. Congratulations to Otto and Claudine Rake. Today is their golden anniversary.
Happy 61st wedding anniversary to Joyce and Harold Sentner of Norris Arm. Happy birthday to Bertha Stickley, who's celebrating her 97th birthday. She's from Catalina, but now lives in Bonavista. Congratulations to Ray and Triffy Abbott. They're celebrating 50 years of marriage. Wishing a happy 93rd birthday to William Cooper of Queens Cove. Happy 90th birthday to Mary Maloney of Sweet Bay. Mary's now living in Clarenville.
Happy 61st wedding anniversary to John and Eileen Humber from Dunfield, Trinity Bay. Happy birthday to Mamie Moores, who's celebrating her 97th birthday tomorrow. She's from Broad Cove, Conception Bay North, but now lives in Paradise. Art White of St. John's is celebrating his 95th birthday tomorrow. Happy 91st birthday to Joan Stamp of Labrador City, formerly of St. John's. She celebrated on March 5th. Happy 59th wedding anniversary tomorrow to Thomas and Meta Condon of Grand Bank.
Happy 50th anniversary to Terry and Rosalind Hayward of Lawrencetown. Happy 90th birthday to Captain Caleb Keane, who was born in Pound Cove, Bonavista Bay. Happy 66th wedding anniversary to Carl and Jean Lindell of Grand Falls, Windsor. Happy birthday to Thomas Fry of Charleston, Bonavista Bay. He turned 93 this week. Congratulations to Norman and Betty Perry, formerly of Nippert's Harbor, who celebrated their 58th wedding anniversary this week.
Happy birthday to Catherine Hicks, who turned 91 yesterday. Happy birthday to Agnes O'Keefe. Agnes is turning 90. Also celebrating a 90th birthday is Tom Bilodeau of Old Fort Bay, Quebec. Congratulations to Claude and Patsy House from Daniels Harbor, who celebrated their 53rd wedding anniversary on March 6th. Happy 92nd birthday to Frank Mullet. Frank is from Odorin Island, but now lives in St. Mary's.
Anniversary greetings extended to Ross and Madeline Fudge of Deer Lake, celebrating their 55th anniversary. Sending out greetings to Mabel Goodyear, who celebrated her 91st birthday yesterday. Mabel's from Lumsden, but now lives in Badgers Key. Dorothy Squires of St. Phillips will celebrate her 90th birthday this Sunday. Dorothy still lives in her own home in St. Phillips. Happy 95th birthday to World War II veteran Jerome Kilfoy, formerly of Marystown, now living in St. John's. Happy birthday to Millie Johnson from Little Catalina, who celebrates her 95th birthday on March 13th.
And happy 59th anniversary to Sydney and Rachel Brace, celebrating on Sunday. And happy 99th birthday to Mary Flynn of Clark's Beach, who will be celebrating this Sunday as well. Congratulations once again to everyone who's celebrating.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say there'll be a couple of people watching the Brier over the next couple of days.
Yeah, I got my tickets. I'm heading down as soon as the show is done. I'm
Nice.
Ditching you guys and heading down to mile one
As you would.
to have a look to see whether or not Team Guju, they lost to Manitoba in the round robin. Hopefully tonight they're able to win and automatically get through to that final. And if they do, it will, the downtown will be lit on Sunday if they do. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Have a good weekend, everyone. We'll be back Monday.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.